busy last couple of days here preparing for Rutgers, and it's when you look at their team, I think this is now maybe coach is going into his third or fourth year, and you can see they have certainly taken on his identity. We're up double figures at Wisconsin. The Michigan State game was kind of similar to our Michigan State game here, back and forth. Michigan State pulled away late. They're big. They're extremely physical. They're very tough. Amaruye is a mismatch issue, and Geo Baker as a sophomore. He was really good last year for him, but he's really come into his own as a guy on the ball that presents a lot of problems because of his ability to make shots and drive it and attack and get others involved. And then certainly their collective size is a concern. 3 guys over 6'10", start a 7-footer, and then they have really good length at different positions, including the point guard position and the backup point guard position. So certainly, as you know, we went into this game here, the prior Michigan State game, talking about how tough these next 2 opponents, how physically tough they are, which is a bit unusual, but I think our guys, you know, after having watched them play Michigan State, have a great appreciation for how physical they are. So looking forward to see how we respond to our loss the other day, and excited about another road challenge. I think it's going to be as challenging as any environment and any game we've played on the road this year. I believe that wholeheartedly.
You said after the game you were looking for more guys that you can play through in the post aside from just Caleb. Are you looking for specific guys? Are you looking for just ways to get the ball in the post, or how important is it to, I guess, find some answers there, knowing what sort of physical challenge you're going to have in this one?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we're going to try to do moving forward. Is hopefully have multiple guys that we can play through in the post, and you know, we have to continue to grow that aspect of our guys' games. Andre's a guy that has shown the ability to do that, as has Kyle at times. Not something really Kyle's ever done, but he's shown the ability to do it. Jay, so you know, I think there's multiple guys that we're trying to just play through, and Andre would be kind of the next clear option for us.
And for as physical as that game was, how did you guys come through it physically? I mean, is everybody okay? And what can you tell us about where CJ is dealing with the cramping? You
know, I think he's fine. Justin will not be traveling with us, but that's a flu. He had the flu last night. Was up all night, and really on the hour. Sickness, was sick on the hour basically. Still really weak. Won't practice today. It's just a virus that we think is highly contagious, but hopefully he'll be healthy and ready to go for our next road trip. But you know, I think CJ's. You know, those that know our program for the last couple of years know that this has been an ongoing issue for CJ, and you know, he's managed it really well. Proud of him for that, but it's frustrating for him. It's really frustrating for him, and I get that. And he's just got to do what he can to limit, do everything he can to limit the cramping.
Chris, you mentioned responding to the loss. I think last year you guys only lost back-to-back games twice. What is it about a team that allows you to respond from defeats, or you know, pick yourself back up and go out there and handle things the way you're supposed to?
You know, I think it begins with an awareness that this is life in a power conference. This is life in league play. You're going to go through some serious bumps and bruises, and so I think it begins with that. There's just a reality that that's going to happen, And then, you know, I think one of the things that made last year's group so significant was, in that regard, was our leadership was outstanding in response to a loss. And I think this group has the potential for that as well. But we'll see. You know, I think as you get into league play, you know, we'll go as far as our collective leadership takes us, and I really believe that, and I'm excited about seeing that continue to grow within this group. Given
the youth of this team and the guys you lost last year, is this kind of a big challenge for them because of that?
Sure, I think it is. I definitely think it is, just how we respond. I think going into an environment that's going to be a great environment, it was last year, and knowing that you're going to have to be physically and mentally tough for 40 minutes to give yourself a chance. I think that's. I think our guys recognize that. I'm excited to see this new group in this environment and our response to that.
With the wanting to get the ball into the post more and get more guys in the post, is it a matter of you don't feel like you're scoring enough in there, or are you trying to get more inside-out action?
I think it's more just I feel like it's an area that we could utilize guys maybe more than what we have. That's it. It's obvious with Caleb, but I'm not saying it's going to be, you know, it's a very physical, big team we're playing. I'm not saying it's all we're going to do. I think we have guys that can make shots and play up ball screens, and we want to have some variety to our attack. But I think it's more a situation where we've seen guys be able to do that, and we want to kind of try to foster that and that be a part of what we're doing.
And with CJ, I know you obviously can't predict when he's going to have issues and when he can't. Does it cross your mind at all to try to limit him in the first half so that maybe you can hedge a little bit and hope that you have him later in the game?
Yeah. You know, I've talked with our medical staff, and I don't know that is the answer in this. You know, they've not. We've talked about that, and they've not suggested that would be the answer. It may be something I revisit with them, and we'll see. I think, you know, I think I made a mistake, and some of it was some foul trouble issues and Keyshawn struggling a little bit. But, you know, looking back on it, I'm not necessarily sure what my decision would have been, but I probably, in terms of who I would have put back on the floor, probably would have been Keyshawn. But I think we had too much youth on the floor. And then CJ, I was trying to err on the side of giving him a chance. And his it didn't necessarily hurt us offensively as much as it hurt us defensively, because he was so good in the first half defensively. And then we had to try to hide him when he came in the latter parts of the second half, and that ended up hurting our team.
Chris, your guys last week when we talked to him mentioned how much they appreciate your honesty. How hard is it to find guys in the recruiting trail who want a coach that's honest with them as opposed to one that blows smoke at them? And how honest have you been able to be in the wake of this tough loss without rubbing it in?
Yeah, I think that's one of our, you know, as cliche as it sounds, it's one of our core values. And I think people hope our guys, well, first of all, you have to have really good kids. You have to have really good kids. And also I think there has to be, you know, I told him again yesterday, you know, listen, I wish I would have done a better job for you late in certain situations, whether it was a substitution or whether it was, you know, I wish I would have done a better job for you late. So I think they need to hear that from me, and then if we have a good enough and a healthy enough relationship, you know, they'll hear honesty in terms of critiques and challenges that I'm going to throw their way. And I think if you have guys that want to be good, you know, we talk about it all the time. Good players want to be coached, and if they don't want to be coached, then I think, and if they don't want to be coached in an honest way, this probably isn't the right place for them.
Something I've been wondering about since Gene Smith mentioned it. He said he used to have a sit-down with Urban every Sunday. How often do you meet with him? Is this something that he does with every coach?
Yeah, I meet with Gene regularly, and he is, it's amazing given the number of sports that he is in charge of. Gene is as accessible as any AD I've ever worked for. And I know he's very vested in our interest. You know, it's not every Sunday like it was necessarily with Urban, different sport, different, you know, less games, all those kind of things. But he's very dialed into what we're doing. And I can certainly pick his brain, bend his ear. I always really valued that, the places that I've been. My AD at Gardner-Webb admittedly told me he didn't know much about basketball, but he knew a lot about leading people, Chuck Birch, and he was fantastic. And then I worked for a guy at Butler who was a former basketball coach and very successful, in Barry Collier. And he did not tell me he didn't know much about basketball. So that was a different dynamic because you know the guy knows what he's talking about. And I appreciated that as well with Barry a lot. He's very, very honest in his critique, and I always really valued that and didn't shy away from it. And Gene has been tremendous and a tremendous resource. He's very good with people and understanding kind of how people operate, and I think that's been very helpful.
Chris, when you look at Caleb for the last 5 or 6 games, it seems like he's really growing, building. I don't know if it's confidence or what, but he's putting up a bunch of points. And then does he need a game like Michigan State against that level of competition? We knew the matchup that he was going to be in. Does that validate some of the progress for a coaching staff, for a player that, you know, and add to what he'd been doing? Because the 5 or 6 games before that were not exactly the same level.
Yeah. I think the validation will come in the consistency of effort. And I think Caleb has a chance to be a really special player. I really do. He's worked exceptionally hard, improved his fitness, but he knows that consistency in terms of his impact, there's not going to be, you know, he faced single coverage for most of the game. There's going to be times where that's not going to be the case. We play a very good team in terms of defending the post on Wednesday. They're very good. They're very physical. They're big. They're bigger than Michigan State. But I think for Caleb, it is his ability to impact both ends, and to consistently do that is what determines kind of who you are. He'd be the first one to tell you that he's not going to rush to judgments after a good game or two. It's the consistency of effort, and I just appreciate the fact that he's worked really hard and added to his game, and I think our team recognizes who he is as a player, and there's something to be said for that too.
When you talk about adding to his game, where have you seen the most progress in him?
Fitness, conditioning. I think his defense, which, you know, everybody, no offense, but everybody talks about the points and the scoring and all that kind of stuff. I think he's always been capable of doing that, always. But it's fitness, conditioning. His defense has improved. It still has to continue to improve. His ball screen defense has improved. I think his post defense, you know, I think he really took advantage of them last game. I think there were times where he has to improve in that area. But I would see greatest improvement has been in his fitness, conditioning, in his defense. But we still need more, and he knows that. And I think I was more proud of him as anything is how aggressive he was and physical he was once he caught the ball the other day. And we'll see if he can grow and continue to be that moving forward.
Luther Muhammad is making like a homecoming here. What do you think about players when they go back to their home areas? I mean, he's only a freshman. He could get kind of jacked up about this.
Yeah, I've seen it go both ways. I've seen guys have a great maturity about it, and they play the game as if it's another game. And I've seen guys it completely take them out of just play the game. So maybe we'll have a conversation, but I've seen it go both ways with guys.
He doesn't seem like to be that kind of player that gets so excited that he just kind of stumbles over himself.
I don't think so, but we'll see. You know, we haven't really been in this environment with him yet. I don't think that's going to be the case. You know, he's got to focus in on what his team needs him to do each and every possession. That's going to be our challenge to him. He's got a great maturity, and we'll see how that translates.
And these guys are getting like more than 14 offensive rebounds a game. I
Tremendous.
mean, as a coach, what do you do about that?
Emphasize it, work on it. They're really good at chasing 50-50 balls. They are incredible. Cincinnati was the other program that was just tremendous at getting 50-50 balls. They're athletic, they're big, but their pursuit of the ball is tremendous, and it's a credit to how well coached they are. They just have they're a really well coached team, and you can see that as they play. They just play with great effort.
Chris, when you see how important Caleb Weston has been for you guys, has he kind of set the tone for, you mentioned Andre Weston and Kyle Young as guys that need to step up in terms of post play. How has Caleb kind of made himself a leader in that, setting the tone for the expectation in that area of the game?
Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb.
I think he's been really good and vocal, and he's a little bit different than his brother in that he wants that maybe more, and I think there's a consistency of effort and consistency of performance that's kind of required to be, and that's every day in practice. To be a guy who can lead, and I think that's something he's growing. Sometimes I forget he's a sophomore, and sometimes I forget that we have other guys that are sophomores and freshmen, and that doesn't change our expectation and our demands on them. But I do need at times remember that we're asking guys that are relatively young to lead our group, help lead our group.
But you do consider him to be that kind of leader. Are you surprised by that by the time you inherited him? Or?
Not really, because he has that ability and disposition, and I think wants that. But again, I want to hesitate to not. I mean, he's, again, it's going to come down to how consistent he is with that. And how he leads, but I'm excited that he wants that.
When you have this many players in your consistent rotation, or either in your first or second year here, how often do you have to take a step back and still understand that you're still dealing with a primarily young team?
Yeah, it's a balance really between that understanding and yet the urgency of wanting it to happen right now. And I think the reality is we need to learn quickly. We need to learn from the last 6-7 minutes of the game the other day and all the parts in between, but particularly the last 6 or 7 minutes. And we need to get better in those areas. And I don't want our relative newness, because you mentioned first year guys that are playing a major role, to be something that we use as an excuse. I also want to have an understanding that we've just got, as coaches, be committed to teaching it better, reinforcing it more, and making sure that our guys are getting it.
And with CJ, is there anything he's doing like off the court to try to help with some of this cramping?
You know, he's working with our medical staff. There is medication that he takes, and all the, you know, Jeff Dietz, our trainer, kind of has a game day routine with him. He's had it since last year that he goes through with him, beginning very kind of first thing in the morning. You know, we hope that you know, we won't see this happen again, but he definitely has a routine that he goes through with our medical staff.